It gaff till a gaff. It gaff till a gaff. I'm illy with the till a gaff. Illy with the till a gaff. Knit gaff, knit gaff. Knit gaff, knit gaff. Okay, and welcome to another edition of Freethinking. This is the Grand Go to Papa Lifestyle Podcast. This is a podcast for, let me get my card, for free thinkers, self-improvement devotees, business people, hip-hop heads, general music enthusiasts, martial arts enthusiasts, and generally cool motherfuckers. So, I'm going to see if I can get through this topic quickly, mainly because I've got a pizza in the oven and I don't want it to burn. So, let's see if I can get through this topic in 7 minutes. And the topic is, well, here's the funny thing. I said, and I promised myself, and I'm going to try and stick to it, that I was never going to do a podcast on Brexit. So this is not a podcast on Brexit, but I've been thinking a lot about Brexit and Donald Trump and, you know, the kind of furor and the anger and resentment that these two political events have caused. But more importantly, recently with Brexit, the thing that I find so interesting is this whole concept of a second vote. And I think it kind of brings into play a real constitutional problem. A real constitutional problem. Now that's funny for me because I'm not a lawyer and I don't know anything about, you know, constitutional politics. So, basically I think that Brexit calls into question a real constitutional problem about voting. Now don't get me wrong. I know that in America, you've got the electoral colleges and that's a hugely constitutional, debatable process. And there's a lot of conversation around elections, election rigging, first past the post and all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to talk about any of that stuff today. What I want to talk about is the simple scenario of political lies. And if you've been lied to by politicians and they lied to you, and because of what they told you, what they promised you, what they led you to believe, you voted one way, and then subsequently you discovered that actually that was all bullshit. And I got to invoke the Riley, man. I mentioned Boondocks before, I'm sure. If you never watched Boondocks, you just got to go find it. That's some old bullshit. Big shout out to, I can never remember her name, but there's an actress who plays both Huey Newton and Riley, and she's just the most amazing. And she was also in The Leftovers and everything from Poetic Justice right through. And her name always escapes me, which blows my mind because she's just incredible. Anyway, I'll put that in the show notes. So yeah, if you find out that you voted for some stuff, you voted for a politician or a political party, or you voted in a referendum based on promises, and then you discover that that was some old bullshit and none of it was true, do you really have a right to ask to change your vote? And I think it's a really serious question. I think it's a super constitutional question. And I'm not going to go into the constitution of it because I'm not a lawyer. But I find it so interesting because my view on this is really simple. When have you ever voted in an election and not been lied to? Like ever. Like ever. Like ever. All politicians lie. We characterize politicians by their ability to lie. And we characterize, I guess, politicians by either how efficient they are at lying or how blatantly they lie, but usually by how well they explain away the lies they told. And how well they explain away the things they promised they were going to do and didn't do, or half did, or sort of did, but not to the extent of which they promised you. So, you know, for people like myself who, bad boy, has, you know, had a history of not voting, I don't vote for this exact reason. Because politicians lie. So what am I voting for? I'm voting for the guy who either lies the best in terms of stuff that I want to hear, but I know probably is never going to happen, never going to come true, or I vote for the person who, well, no, I think it's just the first one. Because I know they're lying. I know they're not telling me the truth. So maybe I can vote for the one that I hope is actually going to tell the truth. Like, there was a big thing, around Jeremy Corbyn, and he's the honest man of politics, and he's a man of principle, and he's going to do the things he says. And I kind of bombed out politics many, many years ago when I came to this discovery, because I was very, very, very deeply into politics. As I said, as a radical socialist, as a black militant, and everything in between. And the reason I bombed out of politics is when it became really, really clear to me that there are just no options. Because no matter how sincere or genuine you want to be, to get something done, like in all aspects of life, it means compromise. So you can't be in politics with principles. And I think the best example, and this is going to be very shaky, but, you can research my broad stroke information and, you can get the actual genuine fact-checkable information, was there was a real big thing. I think it was DACA, something in American politics to do with the Dreamers. And the only way they could get to keep their ability to allow people to come into the country and, go through this process of, become naturalized Americans, and, help their lives, was they had to vote in support of something equally heinous that Donald Trump had dreamt up. So, this is what happens. You sit down there as a so-called politician, looking at the fire or the frying pan, the best of, two horrible choices, or, I either vote for neither and none of them happen, or I accept this utterly heinous piece of legislation that's going to destroy the lives of so many people in order to get this piece of legislation through that is going to help the lives of so many people. So, for me personally, I took a look at that, and there was no, James T. Kirk solution. I couldn't just hack the mainframe and reprogram the impossible Starfleet scenario so I could actually win it. The bottom line is, in real life, there is no way of hacking that. I don't know, maybe Russia might Russia might disagree. They hacked all that shit and they got all the results they wanted. But my point is, actually I should really, really clarify that. Allegedly hacked all that shit. We have no proofs. But there's most definitely a lot of hacking going on. And in all directions, I remember, I can't remember exactly what it was that I think it was possibly North Korea did to piss off Americans, but I remember Obama promised a swift response and their internet went down, like the whole fucking thing. So anyway, the point I'm making is, a good man in politics. No such thing, impossible, never going to happen. So why are we so surprised now politicians lie to us? Well, I think it's kind of, a little bit like what happens when we are lied to personally. And I've been through an experience of rather, for me, really horrific experience, with what's the word I'm looking for? Somebody with narcissistic personality disorder. We use the word narcissist a lot, about somebody who really only cares about themselves, doesn't care about other people. But this person, I won't go as far as saying have an illness. I still think it's a choice. But they are a really messed up person, and they were a pathological liar, because most of these people have to be in order to commit the acts they do and to manipulate the people the way they do. So what happened was, I had this person waste a lot of my life, waste a lot of my effort, take a lot of my attention and my care, only to find out that everything that all my efforts and actions were built on were all lies. Because everything they told me that I'd maybe give this person attention and want to help them, and not just befriend them, actually take my time and effort, my money, my resources, and help them to improve their life, was all a lie. It was all bullshit. Here's the problem: you don't get a do-over. When somebody in your life lies to you, tricks you, cons you, mistreats you, abuses you, you don't get a do-over. You don't just get to wave your wand and go bippity boppity boo and go back to the beginning, or jump in your TARDIS, or be Superman and fly around the world and reverse the spinning of the planet and let it go back so that shit didn't happen. The reality is that shit did happen. You were tricked, as Malcolm X used to say. You were hoodwinked. You're a chump. You've been tricked. You've been bamboozled. You've been hoodwinked, and you have to live with that. You have to live with the consequences of being tricked. You have to live with the consequences of being bamboozled and hoodwinked and fooled. So I love to, always take the macro to the micro and then the micro back to the macro, because I think that's a very good way of assessing things. So in a micro level, there's nothing you can do. You can't go back to a person and say, I want my time back. I want my love back. I want my help back. I want my money back. We might ask for money, but but the rest of that stuff, the trust that you gave them, the help, the attention, you can't get that back. They tricked you. So then we take this on a political level. Like I said, I can't think of a politician or a political scenario where the politicians didn't lie to the people, at least on some of the issues. But something as important as Brexit, I mean, firstly, I've got to just throw this up because I said I was never going to discuss it, but since I'm here, firstly, I can never get past the belief that it was never just a referendum on an option, right? I said this every single time, you never let the public vote. John Sargent on Dancing with the Stars, or the X Factor will always tell you that you never let the public vote. They vote for all the wrong reasons. But if you look at public votes, it's the number one thing I would use if I was trying to promote dictatorships. You don't let the public vote. But if you're going to let the public vote, you let the public vote on a decision like, okay, here's a referendum. If you decide that you're unhappy, then we in Parliament, the people you elect, will discuss if we're going to move or not. But you don't let them vote in or out, because then you allow all the scaremongers, all the liars, all the tricksters, all the professional con men to do what they do best, push all their emotive buttons to get them to vote the way they want them to, based on everything but facts. Now, we all know as salespeople that people don't make buying decisions based on fact. They make buying decisions based on emotions. So when you've got all the right players out there pushing, all the right emotive buttons, you're going to get the result that happened. They're going to get the result they want. All the people trying to push the facts were always going to be the people who got the I'm not so sure, call me back next week. But the people who push the emotive buttons are always going to get the people who are going to get the situation where they say, okay, then where do I sign? So, actually, to date, my favorite political line, I've been really interested in politics since a very young age, since probably 10 years old. So we're talking easily 30 odd years. My favorite political lie is still the Brexit battle bus, vote leave, and we're going to get 350 million euros back to fund the NHS. It was retracted within a few days of the vote, which is why it's my favorite political lie. Because most political lies, they kick the can down the road a little bit and they try and pretend that, we're working on it. It's doable. We're going to get it done. We're working on it. We're heading towards it, and hopefully they just get voted out and they never have to deliver it. Whereas with that one, they were like 2 or 3 days. Oh, yeah, about that. No, that was bullshit. No, that's never going to happen. So it is to date my number one political lie ever. Even better than I did not have sexual relations with that woman. It scores higher than that. And there are a couple of other great ones. Oh, weapons of mass destruction. Another one of my most formidable political lies. No, these people can launch an attack on the UK within 45 minutes with weapons that don't exist, that they don't have. So, I like political lies. I know it's kind of a little bit twisted, but I actually do. I like political lies. And I still think that the Brexit battle bus is my favorite because it was retracted so quickly. It took I think it was 2 years, maybe 18 months of investigations to find out weapons of mass destruction was bullshit. They had to almost impeach Clinton to find out that he did, in fact, have sexual relations with that woman. But, but he smoked, but he didn't inhale. But, so that's why it's my favorite political lie. But the problem is, once you've been lied to, once you've been tricked, once you've been hoodwinked, once you've been bamboozled, once you're a chump, you don't get a do-over. You don't get a do-over. You don't get a do-over in real life. And you don't get a do-over in politics. Now, here's the thing. I appreciate, for example, if you're a con man and you've conned me, I can take you to court. And I might get a do-over. I might get my money back. I won't get my hurt feelings back, but I might get my money back. So I guess these people are saying, well, we want a do-over because these people lied to us. So we technically want to take them to political court and say, this wasn't true. You told me this stuff. I voted based on that. And I want to do over because, you lied. You broke the rule. You broke the law. But here's the question. Did you break the rules? Because you see, if every other politician that you have ever had contact with lied to you as well, then did they really break the rules? Or did they just play the game better than everyone else? And so I suppose my real point is this. I remember when Trump was elected, and I was, I was not a supporter. I am not a supporter of that human being. I think he's quite repugnant. But I remember saying to some American friends, 51% of your country voted for him based on the electoral system that you have. So wipe your mouth, dust the dirt off your shoulder, stop bitching and complaining, get to work on changing your electoral system, or get to work on changing the minds of 10% of your population, because if they actually went with the shit that he was promoting, that's your fucking problem. You know what I'm trying to say? If I want to go out into the town and say, right, we're going to kill all the short people, I would hope that I'd be just fucking ignored, or even better, just arrested and put away, where I can't incite hate and be of a threat to people. But if I go into town and go, yeah, we're going to kill all short people, and everybody under 5 foot gets it, and people start going, yeah, we should kill the short people, because, they got low center of gravity and whatever. Whatever the reason being, then that's I'm not the problem anymore. You're the problem. You, the people who voted for that, you, the people who believe that, you, the people who wanted to believe that, you're the problem. So you don't get to complain at me and say you want a do-over, because you wanted to believe that. You didn't fact check it. You didn't do any research. You just wanted to believe that in this instance, for example, with the Brexit thing, the immigrants are the cause of all our woes. You would think after fucking 2 world wars and the fact that there is what's the word I'm looking for? Like a memorial museum to what happened to the Jews, particularly in the Second World War. And there is so much archive footage of the propaganda and the Nazi propaganda machine and how it demonized Jewish people and got a whole nation of reasonable human beings to get behind this belief that these people were demons and need to be eradicated. You would think after all of that proof that you can research on any given day, ain't hidden, it's not restricted, it's there. In fact, it's promoted. Thank God it's promoted. You would think after all of that you would have the ability to see the comparisons between Trump's campaign and the Brexit campaign and demonizing of minorities and trying to say that these minorities are the cause of all your woes. But you didn't, because you didn't want to, because you much preferred the fact that somebody else was the cause of all your woes than your fucking dumbass was. And now you want to do over. Listen, dude, I think you need to wipe your mouth, get that dust off your shoulder, and deal with what you asked for. Because I don't think that you have a right. Everyone says, we weren't given the information. Yeah, you were. Yeah, you were. You were given all the information. You didn't have to sit around for 2 years to watch politicians bounce around like a bunch of Keystone cops and the EU say, well, we never asked you to leave, but since you're leaving, you don't get to decide the fucking terms because we're the club. You asked to join our club and we're still the club, so we'll tell you the terms under which you can leave. So frankly, you didn't get that. You always hear the shouting in the background. Say what that is. I live in the Spanish community. It's quite lively here. Yeah, you always had the information. You just didn't want to hear it in exactly the same way. Like every salesman knows that he could read you all the specifications about the red car. But if you really, really like blue cars, you're going to buy the blue one without any of the specs. Because that's what you want. That's what you want to believe. You want to believe it will make you happier. You want to believe you'll feel cooler in it. You might, as I said, the Skoda might be 10 times better. But the Ferrari badge on the old Ferrari that is, technically, just for an example, if there was a Ferrari that was technically much, much, much inferior to a brand new Skoda, you'd still buy the Ferrari because you want to believe that. So don't turn around and go, well, I wasn't given the information. The information's right there. You chose not to believe it. And definitely with regards to, which, I hear I've never met anybody who told me that. I've met a lot of people who voted leave in Brexit, and I've never met anybody who voted leave because they wanted to get rid of the migrants. Everybody had a really wonderful, flowery, some people had a wonderfully politically astute excuse. Well, I just don't want to be part of a European superstate, and I don't, all my decisions be made in Brussels. And at the end of the day, man, I didn't hear any of the people promoting leave, talking about European superstates, I heard most people talking about migrants, controlling our borders, stopping people taking our jobs, changing our culture. Those are the things that people wanted to believe. And you still want to believe that. Most of the people still want to believe that. What's happened is you now realize, oh, in order to do that, we also have to take all of this. But I wasn't paying attention to any of that. Well, I'm sorry, dude. Who the fuck's fault was that? Nobody told you. That information was there right at the get-go. And everybody who tried to present that information to you, logical, intellectual, factual information, you just shouted it down with control our borders. Less migration. So now you've got this information and you're talking about you want another vote? Fuck out of here. Frankly, I'm really not in it. You know, and obviously I'm not speaking to the people who voted Remain because their situation's different. I get why they want another vote, but again, sometimes you lose. You have to wipe your mouth and move away. And that's all I really wanted to say. You know, I'm a bit distracted anyway. But, you know, at the end of the day, my real point is it's a real issue, I think, to allow political revotes on issues. Recounts, if you don't think the count was done correctly, you know, Jed Bush, that kind of stuff. Yeah, I get that. But revotes, because we weren't given the right information, we want to vote again. I really can't support that. I think people have to, I think if you're going to give the public the responsibility to vote and change the world they live in, they have to take the responsibility of getting their information, going out and getting the information. Just trying to go to Papa and I'm out. Yeah, come in. Is it burned? It gaff till a gaff. It gaff till a gaff. I'm illy with the till a gaff. Illy with the till a gaff. Knit gaff, knit gaff. Knit gaff, knit gaff.